Hello, hello, and welcome to Death Cafe with me, your Latinx Death Doula and Bruja, Pastel Supernova. This is where I take a little time to offer heart-led conversations about death, dying, and loss. I share personal stories, and also I speak with insightful minds about everything to do with the inevitable. On the tail end of Mother's Day, we continue with part two of our episode called Marv. Normally, all of these episodes can be heard out of sequence, but I highly recommend that you listen to episode 13 as we continue the story. Everything falls into place a little bit more if you've got the grounding. Marv is going to continue telling us about her experience as a grieving mother, having to hold loss upon loss upon loss while she navigates through quote unquote regular life, and how she grows, how she allows in support, and now how she offers her own support, her services as a death doula, as a grieving mother, as an open forum for people to grieve. So let's jump in. Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
I would love to start today off by hearing a little bit about your son. What was he like?
Well, let's go with absolute open and honest, because that's what we do. Before he died, we were just starting to get to a relationship, him and I. What happens when mothers and children are too much alike is that there's a lot of static. That's kind of how that goes. There was a rather difficult relationship that I had when Keenan started, just before Keenan started kindergarten. I started with a relationship that was mentally abusive. Um, and he was not the kid that shut up about it ever. He was what I call the poster child of ADHD. He bouncing all over the place. I have pictures of him climbing walls. Um, he was, he was, Tigger in human form.
Oh, wow. Okay.
um, and believe it or not, I loved that about him. He
Yeah.
had an adventurous spirit. He was boisterous and loud. And when he had an issue, you had absolutely no problem figuring out what that issue was because he was very open, just told you about it, sometimes in a manner that would make you go, what did you just say? But, you know, but it was known. It was always known. And when he was young, him and I were tight. He did not want to hang out with other adult type people. Just like some of my favorite memories were having, I would lay on the couch watching movies and I would have one child in front of me, one child on top of me, and one child on my legs, and then a dog on the floor in front of me. Those are some of my favorite memories. And I go back to those when I'm feeling blah or yucky or sad or whatever, because those are the memories I want to keep. When he hit his teen years, he was very angry at the world. And the relationship that was mentally and verbally abusive had come to an end. And I hit a major depression. And it wasn't quite there for him the way he needed me to be there for him for a period of time. And he lost faith in me. And recovering that part of the relationship during teen years is virtually impossible. So he had gone to using drugs and alcohol. So by 15 years old, he was an addict. He was full on, and I was enabling him because I didn't want to lose him. So it came to a point one time when just, I don't know, just a month or so before he turned 16, he had been injured with a knife. And it was just his pinky finger, but his pinky finger would never bend again because it was in the tendon. And it kind of scared me. And one of his other older friends had been arrested and put in jail for attempted murder. So I was even more scared. So I called my sister and asked her if he could come and stay with her. And I packed him up and brought him to Saturna Island, and he lived with her for a little over a year. It didn't solve any of his addiction issues. It didn't solve any of his trauma issues. It didn't help in any way other than it kept him safe, which is honestly a bonus. When he came back, a lot of the people that he had been hanging around with were in jail. So they were no longer able to influence him, but the relationship was still very strained. So he went and did his thing. He was ADHD. So it went from cooking to working at the fair to living on a sailboat to hauling firewood and cooking some more and whatever. He was all over the place. And he ended up back on the island because that was his safe place, and he felt most secure there. And we were able to have some meaningful conversations. Not always, but sometimes. Sometimes he would just be drunk and angry and call me to yell, and I would take it most of the time. But it didn't help anything. We were just starting to get to the point where he was going to be coming up. My now husband and I were just planning on getting married, and he was going to come and attend the wedding. And that would have been where we would have been able to fully reconnect, I think. But he still lived on a sailboat, which really kind of cool. At least I think it is super cool. Something I would have done had I had the opportunity. And one night, him and his friend went to the pub down Saturna, and they were, 21 years old and getting into mischief and being ridiculous young male individuals. Just, we know I'm invincible, I'm big, and Keenan was always a large presence anyways. Like, if he was in a room, there was no way that the whole room did not know that he was in that room. But that night they were getting into some mischief, and his friend was getting mouthy, and somebody was going to punch his friend in the face. And if there's anything that needs to be known about Keenan, it's that he would take that punch for that friend, regardless. So what he did is he instead said, "Hey, dude, we need to get the hell out of here. We're going to get in a fight. And that's not good because we live in a community of 300 people, and it'll get everywhere really fast, and it'll make life really bad. And so he got his friend out of there, but there had been a storm, and the storm had taken the boat that he lived on and kind of blown it across the ocean a bit to another island that was a little ways away. So here he is, right around 11:30 at night, with his friend, having had some alcohol and some weed. Decision-making skills are out the window. Um, they knew they were going to need firewood to dry the boat out when they got there, so they loaded a little rowboat in with firewood, and they got in this rowboat and started trying to row to the sailboat that he lived in, because he was trying to keep his friend from getting into trouble. And he knew he couldn't take this friend to his auntie's house because, my sister was like, you don't bring that shit around here, right? Like, this is just not something that we will tolerate. We're not doing all the drama. So he gets in this boat and they go out. And at some point, there is an argument. We're not sure what exactly it's about. I have spoken with his friend, and he said he was drunk, so he doesn't even remember what the argument was about. But the boat tipped, and after the boat tipped, the argument then became which way to go. And I know how stubborn my son is. And he went, no, I know the right way to go. And so they kind of swam in different directions. Oh. They didn't stay together. His friend made it to shore and made it to help at about 4:00 in the morning. And Keenan was never a strong swimmer, so he just never made it to shore. Interestingly, they found him with his gumboots still on. He didn't even kick off his boots. Right. So, that means something to me, because he would be like, no, I need my gumboots to keep my feet dry. Right. Yeah. Like, that's just the person he was. So for 4 days after that, they searched, the police would search for him on all the little islands that are around. Most of those are uninhabited islands, so they would be, they went and did all their search and rescue stuff. Before, it was 48 hours that they were willing to do that. So before I even got a chance to leave my home to get down there, they were already giving up a search. And I was not happy about that. Let's say that, to be the least. Fortunately, there is a not-for-profit society in the Victoria area that is a basically for body recoveries, to help families to have the closure. I can't remember what their name is right now, but it's something with a legacy, and it's in Victoria. The people that started it had exactly this kind of a scenario happen, where law enforcement only searches for 48 hours, and it never seems like enough time. Yeah, because it's not. But I understand their resources need to go, in priority sequence. So anyways, the Legacy Society then took over and continued the search in the area where the believed boat went missing, or the boat tipped over. They did find the boat that they were in, but it was a long ways from where they found Keenan. It was exactly 7 days, and they found him. It wasn't necessarily a relief that they found him. because that meant that he was dead. That whole time I was like, well, I do know that I taught him survival skills. We went to scouts. He knows how to start fires. He knows how to trap food. He knows what plants are edible. Like, we did these things when, that's what we do. We're northern people. We figure out how to survive in the wilderness. Like, we do that stuff. So I always had that little bit of, what if he's still out there? And they just didn't quite see him. Like, what if? And when they found him, that was over. That little bit of hope was now over. So it wasn't really a relief. It was undescribable. It's pain, but it's not pain, but it's like this whole other feeling. And it was so much different than when it was Felicia, because it was 4 years later. And a completely different relationship, because number one, he was him.
Yeah.
And there's always a different relationship with each child, regardless of how much you try to be equal.
Yeah.
Every child they have their own personality, and you have your own, there's a different type of relationship. And I realized that every loss is completely fresh and new, but still has a part of the previous loss attached to it. And that was actually, I know it sounds corny or weird or whatever, but it was something that I realized even in the midst of doing that, in the midst of having to go and pick up his effects. And honestly, there are still times when I'm like, is it even real? What if he's still out there? Because he was kind of that type where he would go, I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel like I'm getting what I need, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to run away and go and live in the bush. He did it a couple of times when he was a teenager. you know, so I have that still kind of in the back of my head, and I have to rationalize with myself. Number one, the police would not lie to me. They did identify tattoos that were very unique to him. When they came to me and said, what does FEMS mean? FEMS was his sister's initials, and he had them across his chest. So, that's super unique to who he was. And when they gave me his personal effects, those were definitely his. So sometimes I have to still run through in my head all of these things that tell me that it is absolutely true that this was my child that was found at the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. He was 21. Cocky as hell. And making on the fly decisions like his mother. I don't know how else to explain it. When I was 20, 21, whatever, I would just, well, this seems like a really good path to do. Go. So, he was not unlike me at all. Actually, when he was 16 or so, people thought he was me because he decided to grow his hair out. So he had really long hair, and he looked identical to me. Like, he looked so much like me. People would be like waving at him, while he's walking down the street
Mhm.
and then saying to me, "Why didn't you wave at me? It wasn't me, it was my son." But yeah, people thought he was me all the time.
Yeah.
It was funny. But he's such a great kid, like his heart was absolutely in the right spot, wasn't necessarily guided by wisdom. But when I when they towed the boat back to shore and we went into it and found all of the things, there was not very many things in this boat. It was not about material items. And then I found out that that is because every time somebody came to the community that had less than him, or he perceived had less than him, he would give them things. So, literally, the shirt off his back warms my heart.
Yeah.
It makes me proud of the young man that he was starting to become. Yeah, I was super proud of him. He never really could wrap his head around how I could be proud of him because ADHD, one of the things is the imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough no matter what. So he didn't get it, even if I did say, and I did, that I was proud of him and why I was proud of him. He just couldn't wrap his head around it all the time. He would be like, you're just my mom, you're biased, all that stuff. And again, not unlike his mother, my dad said the same things to me, and I went, you're biased, you're my dad. So,
Right.
yeah. So that's my son. Yeah.
I mean, he sounds absolutely unforgettable.
Yeah. Legit unforgettable. Anybody who's ever met him, I run into people that said, well, I think I had like a 20-minute conversation with him and I will never forget. It's just crazy, but it's true. He was one of those like stick in your memory kind of people. Yeah, just beaming.
Are you a spiritual person? Do you follow a faith?
I would call myself non-denominational to some degree. I was very Pentecostal
Okay.
for quite a while. I find the construct of religion to be too confining. And that's kind of how I feel like I'm spiritual because we all have a spiritual part of us. But I find now I'm leaning more towards the spirits that are earth and fire and the elemental type. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's more. Some of my friends call it the woo woo stuff,
Mhm. I'm all about it.
and I will accept that. Woo woo sounds like a fabulous religion to be.
Yeah.
But taking from the practices of the First Nations people with cleansings and the sage, and I've kind of taken from a lot of different places and kind of incorporated them into what feels good for me. And I think that that is probably the best you could do, my opinion.
I ask because this is a lot. You told us the story before. You have another child and you have other things in your life going on. It's just a lot of stuff piling on, and uh, I wonder, yeah, what you were leaning on, Was there faith at that time to help you? Was like in terms of non-human support?
I feel like there was, but I wouldn't have been able to recognize it. So my parents were very, very Christian. And my dad specifically embodied what I would consider a Christian person.
Okay.
So the word Christian means Christ-like, and if you look at Christ or Jesus's actual example, there's not a lot of people on this earth that follow that example for real. My dad was open, he was forgiving, he would support me regardless. I could have come to him and said I was a Satanist, and he would still have loved me. That would never change him. He would be disappointed. He would have all these other emotions, but he would have still loved me.
Right.
I never had that fear. And my dad passed away in 2003. And ever since then, I have felt his spirit near and around me whenever I am having any struggles. So this is something that I'm bringing up because during when Felicia died, I was a part of a church, and there was a lot of activity around me, and it's where I really learned the meaning of in a crowded room all by yourself. And then when Keenan died, I didn't have a lot of activity around me. So it all went to my sisters because he was living down there, and they all kind of went to her. And there had been a lot of one-sided stories about up here and me and how things were up here, and really focusing in on the things that I know I made mistakes about, because that's what we do as humans. So they all really, like, the people all supported my sister, and really I did not get a lot of support for myself other than my husband, who, by the way, is a rock. He's amazing, and I wouldn't trade him for the world. But when it comes to the spiritual realm, when Keenan died, I was no longer a part of the church for reasons that we won't discuss. That would make this way too long. But I had just started exploring outside spiritual stuff, the stuff that the church will tell you is evil, but it's really not. It's kind of all the same.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we're still looking at the universe, Mother Nature, grandmother, whatever you want to call this energy that is around us all the time. It's all there, and we all know it, and we all have a different name for it. And it really doesn't matter what you call it. You could call him George. George is a good name.
I love the name George.
So yes, spirituality is a thing, but not in any specific manner. It's a really long-winded way of saying yes.
I'm glad you had support in that realm. Any form of support, I think, with all of this is good, whether you notice it or not, just to keep you
Mhm.
moving forward, because you have moved forward and you've done so much, and your readiness to share is so badass. Like, it is so rock and roll. I think it's amazing because I know you're not the only one. And I know we both know that a lot of people already don't talk about this for so many reasons.
Mhm.
so many things that we can get into that I want to get into, but I'm just going to wait for you to write a book and I will read it. I might sprinkle some more questions along the way, but do you have talks? Like, what do you say, or what would you say to other parents who might be dealing with both suicide, addiction, estrangement? You've really faced all of it.
I have, yeah. Yeah. People tell me I'm strong. I think I'm tenacious, stubborn, maybe. There's always this thought in the back of my head, always, that there has to be something more. There has to be something more. I need to have some sort of um, purpose. So for me, learning about grief and grieving and death and dying and becoming a doula is about making their lives matter, right? Their lives and their deaths, they mean something. Not everybody has that, and not everybody needs to have that. Because imagine if everybody that had a loss wrote a book, like, go for it. Everybody should, but there would be nothing else on the bookshelves. Finding your purpose in all of this is what the goal is. You're never going to see it at the beginning. You're never going to see it. That whole everything happens for a reason thing, it's crap. You don't want to say that to somebody ever, ever. Not in any circumstance. I don't care if your goldfish died. I'm sorry. That makes me sad for you, with you. I see your pain. Understand that I'm here to listen. I will hear anything you need to say. And understand that I have seen already death on a grand scale. I try to tell people often, you're okay to tell me the details. Because that was kind of the one thing that I would never tell anybody.
Okay.
Those little details, what I saw, what I smelled, the things that won't leave your head. When you close your eyes at night, the first thing you see is the scene that traumatized you. And I wouldn't tell anybody because I didn't want to traumatize anybody until I had a counselor once that said, just say it, just say the thing. And I went, all right, you asked for it. So I gave her the full on description of what I found. And I'm sure she went home and bawled because the look on her face and the feeling that came from her was obviously gut wrenching, because it is. But knowing what I know now, I did need to have that part of it witnessed.
Yeah.
I had to have it all witnessed, or I could not move on from it. And it's not even moving on, those are the wrong choice of words. But I could not process it if I couldn't have it witnessed.
I want to just let you know exactly what kind of gift I think you are to anyone who will come to you because of the non-judgment, your empathy, your intelligence, your ability to hold and offer safe space. So I want everyone to know how to find you. What are you up to? Where can we find you?
Okay, well, I live in the district of Chetwynd, which is in the Peace River Regional District of Northern BC. I am willing to travel. I am willing to do Zoom calls. I just want to be able to offer a hope. I hope that the pain that is there at the moment won't always feel as painful. Now, I tell people that it is not that the pain gets smaller, it's that we grow around it. So, in our area, I have a business that I call Sacred Farewells. It is a division of Spagoo Enterprises. And the name Spagoo comes from the two nicknames that my two children that are on the other side had. So it was Spike and Miss Magoo. Yeah. So I just combined them and made that. And it was originally the name of my dog grooming business, which, by the way, I still do a little bit of, because honestly, brushing a dog is part of my therapy. I offer workshops. I offer one-on-one. There is what is it called? Wild Women's Festival. It used to be called, what is it, Sacred Circles now? Yeah, it's called Sacred Circles Women's Festival that happens the first weekend in August. It's actually in the Hudson's Hope district at Cameron Lake. I will be setting up a grief shrine for the sacred work of grieving. In that shrine is basically a place for release and witnessing. I am very optimistic that this will take off, given the right circumstances. If it does what I think it will do to be of benefit to the community, I will set up something a little bit more permanent on my property. We have a rather large lot, so I can create something that is much the same, but on a larger, more permanent scale within the community, so that people just have a place to go to be witnessed and to have any kind of guidance. I like working with Stephen Garrett's 7 Languages of Sorrow. Mm-hmm. I quite enjoy those. Those are something that I seem to be able to do, like sessions around using those languages to create specialized and individualized programs for people to work through and allow the feels to be felt, because feels don't go away until they're felt and witnessed. And this is something I've learned the hard way more than once. Still, when something happens, I still want to internalize. Right? Even small things. I think even more so after all the things that have kind of happened, because I get really tired of the, oh, who are you? Or the looks, or the, like, I don't want to be in that zone anymore. This is taking all of that pain, all of that sorrow that I've had, and turning it into a roadmap for other people. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to share. Right now, I am still working full time at the District of Chetwynd by law enforcement. You can reach me there. My employers will not be upset if you call me at work, because they know, as so long as I keep it short, which I, sometimes have trouble with. But they're very accepting of all of the different things that I'm doing, because I am attempting to provide a good service within the community. And I am hoping that once I retire, which could be 5 years, could be 10, then I will start working in the District of Chetwynd Hospital, which is also the hospice. area, right? So that's where we do have a ward dedicated to long-term care. Other than that, it's pretty much home hospice here because they're so small and so remote. And it depends. Everything depends on how this evolves.
Yeah.
Probably the best way is to find me on my Facebook page. That is Sacred Farewells Death Doula. And if you send a message on that page, and I will contact you back. If it takes a couple hours, I'm sorry, I might be catching a dog. I don't know. Or I could be, I don't know. Sometimes I take a shower. I have a workshop planned that is coinciding with or partnering with the Linda Christina House here, which is the name of our abused women's shelter support society. It is named after a woman who was brutally murdered by her spouse in our community. And it's another legacy for a tragedy. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do here. There is tragedy everywhere, and there needs to be legacy of healing. I'm hoping to also partner with the First Nations communities that we have here and presenting workshops for their communities as well, in hopes to facilitate some reconciliation and healing. It's devastating, the generational harm that has gone on in our country, and healing needs to start, and it has to start somewhere. And I am one person, and one person can make a difference, and that's my belief.
Absolutely. The project you've got in mind and the idea of making it permanent, I just think what a beautiful concept that is. And I really look forward to seeing how that evolves. That sounds energizing.
Yeah, it's a goal. It's my, and we'll see how it turns out, because
Yeah.
everything that seems to be happening is like ever evolving.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to make, I also want to do, at some point, I want to have my own weekend away. One of the things I remember very clearly is that if I had taken my sorrow and drowned it in alcohol or drugs, there are residential programs that I can go to that will help me to heal from the alcohol, the drugs, and the grief. But because I chose not to resort to substances, there is not a place.
Oh, okay.
So I would absolutely love if I could create a place, even if it's just a weekend, one weekend a year, where those that are grieving can just show up and get some guidance, some love, some empathy, some tools in an area that is not going to be, an hour at a time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Immerse yourself in it for a few days and gather some strength about you again. That's kind of what I would love to evolve to. It might be a big thing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's start with the shrine.
Yeah.
And see how we can get going from there.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing to know you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And there it is. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Marv, for sharing your truth so openly, candidly, and with trust. I and the listeners appreciate you immensely. To get in touch with Marv, find her on Facebook under Sacred Farewells Death Doula. You can find the links in the show notes. And to get in touch with me regarding death doula, grief services, vibrational healing, find me on my website at deathdoulapastel.com. Send me topics of discussion, or if you want to share your story, get in touch with me at info@pastelsupernova.com or on Instagram at Death Doula Pastel. This is an indie podcast, so tell your people, tell your friends who might enjoy listening, because your word is gold. And also subscribe, follow, rate, do all those lovely things. And know that I'm appreciating you on this end. Also, blessings and respect.